Have you ever wondered why so many Japanese women are single? It's not just two or three, it's really a lot, thousands. For someone from outside, it seems impossible. After all, the image we have of a Japanese woman is almost magical, delicate, romantic, elegant. And yet, in their country, thousands, maybe millions, are completely alone. They no longer want to be in relationships, much less have a family. Japanese men aren't even trying to win them over anymore. And the reasons behind all this are quite sad. This isn't a story about a lack of beauty, it's a story about loneliness, about a country where love has been set aside, where people have stopped trying, stopped reaching out to each other. Today, we are going to understand why Japan, one of the most fascinating countries in the world, is experiencing one of the greatest emotional crises in its history, and why, amidst all this, are there so many isolated and lonely Japanese women? When we think of a Japanese woman, a very clear image probably comes to your mind. A beautiful, delicate, polite woman with a very soft voice, maybe even wearing those kimono dresses, walking through the streets of Tokyo as if she were in an anime. In the West, specifically, there's an almost magical image of Japanese women. And this vision didn't come out of nowhere, right? It was constructed over decades with films, series, pop culture, which always portrayed Japanese women as sweet, reserved, and very gentle. And that's why, for many outsiders, it seems almost impossible to imagine a woman like that being single. But the reality in Japan is completely different. There, beauty doesn't guarantee anything, much less love. The fact is, Japan is going through a deep crisis in relationships. Marriages are decreasing every year, and people are distancing themselves from each other. In 1970, almost everyone got married before 30. Nowadays, the average age of first marriage has surpassed 30 for both men and women, and many people simply never marry. Moreover, the country is facing one of the worst birth rates in the world. Women are having fewer and fewer children, and many choose not to have any children at all throughout their lives. Japan's population future has become a very big problem for the government. They've even tried to encourage dating and marriage, but that doesn't work when the problem is much deeper than that, than just lack of opportunity. Modern Japan is a place where being single has become the norm, and not because there aren't options, but because they simply no longer want that lifestyle. Choosing to be alone might seem a bit strange to us foreigners, who are used to not enduring it. But in Japan, it's quite common. And the truth is, there are many reasons behind it. And some of those reasons are quite unfortunate. So yes, there are indeed many single Japanese women out there. The distance between men and women in Japan has become noticeable. They simply don't approach each other anymore. This is not just a phase, a passing trend. It's a tendency that has grown and spread across generations. What used to be natural, like meeting someone, being charmed, falling in love, building a life together, today seems to require too much effort. There's a lack of willingness, a lack of time for that. But above all, there's a lack of courage to get involved. Many men grew up in such a pressured, demanding environment and learned to avoid any kind of deeper connection. The fear of being rejected, of responsibilities, of expectations, all of this makes them choose easier paths. Some are content with that kind of content on the internet. Others dive into imaginary relationships with anime characters, the so-called waifus. There was even a famous case of a guy who married Hatsune Miku, who is a kind of virtual singer. And for them, it's less risky to love an illusion than to face the discomfort of a real relationship, which is a common thing but requires work. Meanwhile, women have also changed. They studied, grew, and earned a certain place in society. Many of them also have high self-esteem, are independent, work, travel, and take care of their lives. As a result, many have stopped wanting to be the old model of the Japanese woman who serves her husband. Nowadays, a large number of Japanese women no longer want to depend on men in the ways of the past. Because I believe you also know what husbands were like until a few years ago. And nowadays, there are still all those problems with the guys I mentioned earlier. So many women say they'd rather be alone than be in such a relationship, without respect, or even without the man's presence. And so, little by little, an entire country has become emotionally distant, as if love had turned into a luxury item, nice to imagine, fun on the internet, but in real life, too difficult to maintain. There's also another very strong reason why Japanese people no longer date or marry: work. In Japan, work is not just a part of life, it is the person's life. Japanese culture values professional dedication so much that many people simply can't balance it with anything else. The workday is very long, heavy, and exhausting. It's not uncommon for someone to leave home at 7 in the morning and return only around midnight, and still feel that they haven't done enough. There's even a term for this, which is karoshi, meaning death by overwork. It's not a metaphor. People really do pass away from working too much. This has even become a public health issue in the country. Exhausted young people, with no time for anything, no energy for anything, no mental space to connect with someone. Relationships require attention, listening, quality time with the person. But how do you offer that when you barely have time to rest, to sleep? So this burden falls mainly on men. They still carry the expectation of being providers. Many of them are trapped in this suffocating routine where everything revolves around work. And the result couldn't be different. They become emotionally exhausted, absent men, worn out, people who grow more distant. And this is where the frustration of Japanese women comes in. They don't want a man who only shows up on weekends, too tired even to talk. They don't want someone who only exists physically, but is always emotionally distant from them. They don't want a well-intentioned ghost. The work that was supposed to sustain life ended up taking its place. And in this process, many beautiful and important things in life were left behind. The hikikomori phenomenon. Amidst this pressure, many young people simply gave up trying. In Japan, there is a term for this, which is hikikomori. They are people, mostly men, who completely isolate themselves from the world. They close a door to their room and spend years inside, without studying, without working, without contact with anyone. Some live like this for 5, 10, or even 20 years. This is not out of laziness. It is usually out of fear. Fear of failure, fear of exposure, fear of rejection. Many of them have deep communication difficulties and have found in the internet and online games a way to try to escape reality. But this isolation is not only male. Many Japanese women also withdraw, even if in a different way. They don't physically lock themselves away, but they gradually disconnect from people. They study, work, take care of their own lives, but they no longer see the future in forming a family. And Japan, which was once a symbol of tradition, of country, of family, has become, and is gradually becoming, the country of loneliness. Millions of people living side by side, but increasingly distant from each other. Suffocating social pressures. Even with all this scenario of loneliness and detachment, Japan still carries very strong expectations about what it means to have a successful life. There is an invisible, yet very constant, pressure for people to follow the standard path, and that is to study, get into a good company, get married, have children, and so on. And people who deviate from this are often seen as someone who has failed in life. But the truth is that this traditional life model doesn't work for everyone. Many women, for instance, no longer want to get married and become housewives. Not that this is wrong, but people have options. But for Japan, the traditional role of the Japanese wife is still a very strong idea. For women who have studied, achieved independence, and think freely, this sounds much more like a prison than a dream. So many prefer to stay alone rather than live a life that is meaningless to them. And on the other hand, men also carry a very heavy burden. They are taught from an early age to be strong, productive, silent. They cannot show weakness, there's no room to talk about feelings, and the pressure is so great that many of them collapse inside and end up completely isolating themselves. It's as if loving someone or having a relationship comes with a list of social demands, and honestly, no one wants to comply anymore. And this is where we encounter a paradox that is difficult to understand but impossible to ignore. Japan is full of women that the whole world considers beautiful and amazing, yet they are becoming increasingly lonely. They are smart, educated, independent, and very well groomed. Many of them are strikingly beautiful in a way that attracts global attention, and yet they are single, alone, isolated. It's not due to a lack of options or arrogance. It's because in today's Japan, relationships aren't worth the trouble. They grew up in a country that expects them to be the ideal woman, so to speak, to be discreet and obedient. But they no longer want to fit into this traditional role. They don't want to have to give up their own lives to support a man who often will only be home a few times a week. On the other hand, men are also exhausted and insecure. They are trapped by their own fears and routines and end up unable to approach these women. It's as if beauty has become a sort of barrier. Many men, in fact, lack the courage to approach them, and courage is something that is quite lacking among Japanese men. So these women, who have everything to form a relationship with someone, to live a beautiful story, end up living alone their whole lives. And there's something quite sad and very common, also seen in other countries, happening amidst all this. Japanese men look at these amazing women and freeze. They feel they are not good enough. They have insecurity, they fear rejection. In Japan, the fear of rejection is a serious issue. It stems from the culture, the education, the way failure is treated. Making mistakes in this country is seen as a shame, not as part of the process. So for many, it's easier to stay silent than to risk being rejected. And the women notice this. They feel the distance, but they don't want to be the only side constantly yielding and having to adapt. In the end, what remains are two people in silence, one afraid to approach, and the other tired of waiting for someone with courage. Well, Japan is still a fascinating country, isn't it? A modern, safe country with many cool traditions and very beautiful places. Very talented, very intelligent people. But emotionally, it's a quite broken country. And today, a huge number of people live without anyone. And maybe, deep down, this story is not just about Japan. Perhaps it's a warning for all of us. Be careful about what your routine is doing to your life. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Share your opinion, and I'll see you in these videos appearing on your screen.